Welcome. I'm April Davila for Sit Right Here, and this is First Page Fridays. If you don't know me, I'm a novelist and a mindset coach. I help aspiring authors write more and suffer less. And for First Page Fridays, we do this by going over somebody's first page that they have sent in. The way it works is I'll read it straight through, doing my best with pronunciation. I haven't read it yet, so you have to be gentle with me. And then we'll come back up to the top and I will just share my thoughts as I edit, as I would, say, a client's manuscript. And that way we can all learn from the changes that I'm making. I always welcome discussion in the comments if you think I made the wrong choice on something. It's a discussion. It's a project. Writing is an iterative process. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to shrink myself down here. And we'll start at the top. So we have a title, Frequency, genres literary fiction, and I'll just jump in here. India stood staring at the white door to her home, wondering how something meant to fix the past had made everything worse. Back then, the door had been navy, like most others on the street, with cutlery-colored numbers above a brushed metal letterbox, and a head-high pane of distorted glass that revealed silhouettes peering through the spy hole whenever someone knocked. The only other door that stood out was number 32 at the end of the street, brown with a fake wood grain finish and a metal security gate. No one seemed to know exactly how many people lived there, not even India. She'd watched. People came and went at all hours, but she had spotted two children, a boy and a girl. Sometimes she found them on the doorstep, sitting sideways as if ready to run. Other times, if the gate was locked, they gripped the bars like prisoners, whispering and staring, always staring, until she rounded the corner. Once, thinking herself clever, she crept toward them, gentle wave, soft voice. Their eyes turned feral, and they spat at her feet, arching their backs for distance. It was well aimed. She kicked the liquid graze from her shoe and bolted when the door slammed shut. Certain someone bigger waited inside. Afterwards, she told the neighbors and felt vaguely ashamed, but they rewarded her with gossip of their own. Someone claimed the boy had a live chicken, holding it out while the girl poked it with pencils. India wasn't interested in that. Okay, so we have an interesting character here. We get right off the top. Her name is India. I'm having a little trouble picturing where this story is taking place. And of course, if you put that word India right at the top, I know it's a name, but of course my brain wants to jump to Southeast Asia, which this seems more like a U.S. Probably suburban, maybe even edging into urban I'm just guessing because of the gate, where was that? The gate on the front of the house. So look for opportunities somewhere in here to tell us what city we're in, maybe give a hint as to what kind of neighborhood it is. Now we do get a lot of detail right up here. In fact, I had a little trouble. I would argue this is too much detail for the first paragraph. When you only get 250 words in your first page and you don't want to spend however many words this is, the first 6 lines kind of telling us what color the doors are, what color the metal letterbox is, what in the glass and the spy hole. These are all details that if they are important, you could kind of dole out as you go. But for me, let's see, this one this really started to grab me right around here. People came and went at all hours. But let's start up here at the top. So India stood staring at the white door to her home, wondering how something meant to fix the past had made everything worse. Now, I don't know. It kind of seems like the something meant to fix the past is the door. I don't know if she's standing inside or outside, so I'm not sure how to picture that. And then before we get any explanation, we get a back then. So now we're jumping. I don't know how far back we're jumping, but back then, at some amorphous, you might want to say 5. Specificity is your friend, always in fiction. So 5 years ago, the door had been navy, like most of the others on the street, with cutlery. And I would definitely cut all of this. You don't want to spend time on these things in your first couple sentences. But it does seem important that the door is now white and was blue. And the way this is structured, presumably painting the door white was meant to fix the past. So this opens a lot of questions, but not in the way we kind of want to when we're opening a story, unless you're going to stay with it, right? So if you're going to continue talking about why the color of the door mattered and when they changed it and really get into the explanation of that, then I think that wouldn't be a bad way to open. But I think, again, what's interesting are the people. We want to get us into scene. So the only other door that stood out, and does it stand out because it is blue like that, or because it is white? And so the only other door that stood out, brown. So it's brown with a fake wood grain finish and a metal security gate. So that is the door. Okay, so we do know that it stands out because it is brown with a fake wood grain finish and a metal security gate. This just feels a little cumbersome. You might just say like, you might just say number 32 at the end of this house. Okay, I'm going to jump in and hack at this a little bit. Forgive me, writer. This is your story. The decisions are absolutely yours. I'm just making best guesses at what I think would help this narrative really like grab your reader right from the start. And my guess would be that if you stood staring at house number 32 at the end of the street, the door was brown with a fake wood grain finish and a metal security gate. No one seemed to know exactly how many people live there, not even India. And I think, again, we want to get into the scene, right? So if she stands there staring at it, we're like, okay, why is she staring at it? Now instantly the reader is like, okay, I want to know, why is this woman staring at number 32 at the end of the street? We get a little bit of description, which is good. We do want to understand like what she's staring at. And then no one seemed to know exactly how many people lived there, like in there or in that house. Lived in, just to anchor it a little bit, not even India. Now, no one would include India. So I don't know that you need that. Lived in there. I think, lived there. India had watched. And since we're a couple lines in, you might use her name again. India had watched people, I would say she had watched people come and go at all hours. Come and go. Lost the auto there. Come and go at all hours. But and then the but is not as powerful. It doesn't feel like a hard turn. So you might say come and go at all hours, mostly adults. And then I would just continue the sentence here. But she had also spotted 2 children, a boy and a girl. Now I'd love to get a sense of how old. Now boy and a girl could be like 3. Do they seem like they're the same age, or is it like a 13-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl? Like that, those ages make a big difference to the story. Like toddlers, like a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old that are like standing by the door by themselves, it kind of speaks a little bit more of neglect than, say, like a bored teenager who might come off as a little more threatening, especially when we get to the spitting part. So consider like dropping a hint here of how old. Does one seem older than the other? How old are they? If they were the same age, are they twins, or is it like a cousin situation? A friend? Is it a daycare? A little more detail in here would be good. Sometimes she found them on the doorstep, sitting sideways as if ready to run. So the doorstep would mean like right outside the door, there's one step. That's how I'm picturing that. Sitting sideways as if ready to run. That works. Other times, if the gate was locked and they were inside, they gripped the bars like prisoners, whispering and staring. I might say whispering to each other or whispering to India as she passes by. I'm picturing it as like to each other, and staring, always staring until India rounded. I would say again, India, because you've got that little girl in there and you don't want any confusion over that. This, to me, this gets us right to like the juicy part. Like who are these children? And clearly India wants to know too, but like, let's get right to them. Once, thinking herself clever, she crept toward them, gentle wave, soft voice. This is very voicey. Like grammatically, you might clean it up a little bit, but I do like the way it kind of hints at your style as an author. Excuse me. because we're not, sometimes we play with language a little bit. We're writers. Let's see, let's put in a break here. So this is kind of like introducing the kids. And now we're going to get into a specific instance, right? We started to draw the reader into what's going on. Now we're going to actually like take them to this one instance, which technically is a flashback. We want to not forget that we started with India staring at the house and hopefully come back to that. But we start there, introduce the idea, and then come into a specific flashback. And actually, I got to say it too. I think often you want to give your readers a little bit more than a paragraph before you jump into flashback. Like, we haven't really learned what India is doing yet. And so if it were me, what I would do is I would probably start here, like put in a paragraph here about like, why is India staring? Like, I might get right into what is happening right now in the story before I give this little bit of backstory that fills in some color around this house and these children. But that's, again, suggestion, not a rule. Once, thinking herself clever, she crept toward them, gentle wave, soft voice. Their eyes turned feral, and they spat at her feet, arching their backs for distance. Now, so I would be curious, when she crept toward them, my brain kept kind of jumping between them sitting on the front step, the doorstep, which is one thing you described, and then the other, and then alternating between that and them being locked inside, gripping the bars like prisoners. Because you could also spit through the bars, right? So I would be curious, where were they when she crept toward them? Because it does change how it plays out in my head. Their eyes turned feral. Also, the kid behind the bar has a certain amount of security and safety. Like, they're probably gonna be more bold. And I think that's why my brain kept trying to like figure out where they were, versus like kids just sitting on the front step. If they're approached by a stranger, it's a different situation. So outlining that or delineating that, expressing that would be important to the story. Their eyes turned feral, and they spat at her feet. Now, I'm curious, did they both spit? That's different than, say, the boy spat and the girl watched, that sort of thing. Arching there. So I'm picturing them in unison, like leaning back and giving that spit. It was well aimed. So if that's what makes me think it was just one of them. So if it's both of them, you might want to say they had good aim. They had good aim, or even surprisingly good aim. Why not? Surprisingly good aim. India, and again, because there is a girl in this situation, right? India, and we're in the past, so I'm going to say had kicked the liquid graze from her shoe and bolted. I'm not really sure, like did you mean like glaze? Maybe glaze. That I can picture. I'm not sure what liquid graze looks like. India had kicked the liquid, and I would just say liquid. And instead of liquid is so benign. If you're having these characters spit at India, you're going for gross. So don't miss this opportunity here. She had kicked the phlegm from her shoe, like gross. Oh, I misspelled it. She'd kicked the phlegm from her shoe, like, go there. If that's the choice you're making, like, don't shy away from it. India kicked the phlegm from her shoe and bolted when the door slammed shut. Okay, so either they were already behind the gate or they ran inside after spitting at her. So you'll need to clarify that. So I'm going to read this as they were behind the bars. She crept toward them where they stood behind their bars. Gentle wave, soft voice. You might even consider giving the scene. But again, we're in flashback, so I don't know how much, like, is this just a little sprinkling of flashback, or is this like a really important moment? If it's really important, I would wait to jump to it and give us a little more of what's happening in the story right now, and then maybe show the scene. Like, what does she say? Before the kids spit at her, you might give a few more. Again, it's hard without knowing your story on a more full level to say how much you should go into detail on this. I'm going to leave it as it is, of course. They had surprisingly good aim. India had kicked the phlegm from her shoe and bolted when the door slammed shut. I want to put that in there. Certain someone bigger waited inside. I get what you're going for here, but what she's actually, like, the reason she runs is because she's afraid that someone bigger might come out, right? So I think I would rephrase this a little, to like, might emerge in their place, and even like, and confront her. And, that's the reason she bolts, is that there's a fear, not that there might be someone bigger in the house, but that bigger someone might come out and actually confront her. Afterwards, she told the neighbors and felt vaguely ashamed. This is such a good detail, that like she's gossiping, but she feels bad about it. But they rewarded her with gossip of their own. Someone claimed the boy had a live chicken holding it out while the girl poked it with pencils. India wasn't interested in that. And then to say that she isn't interested, that's also a good character detail. Like, I think my overall note for this is that I would like to know a little bit more about what is happening before we go into the flashback. So she's standing here, and we get the fact that like we get a little bit about this house, and we know there's a little girl and a little boy, or a boy and a girl. In my head, I'm picturing them as little. They may be teenagers. I don't know. But then like this paragraph here of like what's actually happening in the like now of the story. That's what it feels like should go here. And then once you've kind of drawn us into what is actually happening, like is she staring at the house because she's worried about children? If so, why? What has prompted? I don't know what's happening. She's standing staring at the house at the end of the street. And I may have added that now that I think about it. But you want to draw us into what is happening now. And then as we're filling in the details of the neighborhood, this is a great little flashback to include. But I always think it's a good idea to let us get invested in our main character. Tell us also, like, what does she look like? I mentioned the question around the boy and the girl, but who is India? We don't know where we are, if it's urban, suburban, what city. Like an urban Los Angeles, India is different than a suburban Michigan or Minnesota, India, right? Like if you can tell us where she is, that'll kind of give us hints, but also tall, short, white, black, skinny, large. Think about little ways to drop these hints in. Like maybe as she's standing staring at the house, like her feet start to ache because she's just not an athletic person. Like she doesn't get out of her chair very often. Or maybe when she bolts, you have this opportunity for her to like actually use her strong legs from her running, or, those are awkward, but you want to look for little ways to give us hints of what do these characters look like? Who are they? How old are they? Those kinds of things. So in general, I'm intrigued. I definitely would like to know more about this boy and the girl, and getting to the story of the now of this world as quickly as you can, and drawing the reader in that way. I hope that's helpful. I hope it was helpful not just to the author who sent in the work, and thank you for doing that, but also to the rest of you, anyone else out there who's working on a first page. If you would like to submit your first page, you can use the link that's in the show notes below this episode, and we'll put it in the queue. We'll get to it as soon as we can. All right, everybody, happy writing. I'll see you next time.